Well, hi, everyone. I'm Daniel Williams, Senior Editor at MGMA, host of the MGMA Podcast Network. We're back today with another MGMA Business Solutions Podcast. We've got one of our business partners here today being represented by Rob Fershtman. He is Senior Director of Corporate Partnerships at U.S. Career Institute. And tell you a little bit more about Rob. He spent more than a decade working with healthcare organizations to help them build strong pipelines for certified medical assistants and other essential roles. Rob and I got to catch up about a week or so ago and connect on a couple of things. It was fun getting to meet him there, and I hope that y'all get a great opportunity here to talk to Rob as well, or listen to Rob and hear what he has to share. So Rob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate you joining me and having me on your show.
Yeah. Now, you and I and James, our producer, were talking about your backdrop today. It was so unique and interesting looking. What are you sitting in front of there?
So believe it or not, I'm sitting in front of a shiplap wood wall. The room I'm in is what we call at home my 3-season room. Previously a deck. And so I always wanted a room that we can enjoy 3 of the 4 seasons in. And true to form, we built this thing. Right, it was a COVID project, architect design, that kind of thing.
It's beautiful. So I have to ask, what's the 4th season? What's the one that doesn't make it in the 3-season room?
So you're speaking, even though U.S. Career Institute is from Fort Collins, Colorado, I am from the Detroit metro area. And so winter would be the 4th season. We can be in here. I have a fireplace over here. We can be in here. It's about January, Christmas, January time. But after that, it's not bearable.
Okay. So love hearing that. And I also love talking to people that took up new hobbies, new passions during that pandemic time. They didn't let it stop their curiosity and their passions. I've talked to so many people on here that learned guitar from YouTube over the pandemic, and you did a woodworking project. So that's really cool.
Yeah, actually, to go down a rabbit hole a little bit, I've always wanted one of these 3-season rooms. It's very sizable. We had a pretty large deck on our home, and so I've always wanted one of these, and I was able to do the destruction portion. I can break just about anything, right? But we required actual contractors to build it correctly.
Okay. When you're not designing 3-season rooms, Rob, what do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background in healthcare, and in the kind of work that you're doing right now.
Very good. I appreciate that. So I got started in corporate education about 10 years ago. And prior to that, I was in large corporate banking for a company you would know as RBS United States, for Bank of Scotland, US. And had some big success in that area and hated every second of it, actually, despite the success. And a friend of mine said, given what you do and what your wife does, you would probably be really good at corporate education. And so I got into it. And very early on, my wife and I, about 14 years ago, we started a child developmental psychology practice. My wife is a psychologist, and I scale education and I scale business and that kind of thing. And so I became the financier and biller and coder for my wife's startup psychology practice. Fast forward 14 years, life shifts. And as things started to evolve prior to COVID, there were some healthcare systems that had these unique needs, mostly in rural areas, that they couldn't get enough talent. And so from a big, wide picture, a nerd like me that's a finance guy that reads the Wall Street Journal, I'm keenly aware of the age demographic shift that had been going on, starting with the front end of the baby boomers, right? So 10 years ago, the front end of the baby boomers started retiring off, and you could see the chasm that was happening. And it really started impacting healthcare not so much on the provider end, but in the front end with the patient facing people and the people that operate behind the scenes, what I'll phrase is the early stage career. And so people that were getting out of the workforce, there were starting to be these gaps, and the rural communities were having a really hard time figuring that out. And I met a lady who was in charge of HR of a very large North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota based health system. And she had an idea. And her idea was, instead of recruiting from schools and hoping people come to us, can we build these ourselves using online education and clinical training? And that was prior to the pandemic. And then fast forward, the pandemic happened and this explosion happened. And so it was really interesting to see this problem is pervasive, right? And it's not just a function of the day, it's a function of a workforce that's changing out and an education system that has put up barriers to entry, and now they have needs. And so it started before the pandemic and has just grown and grown and grown and grown since.
That is incredible. So just give us the elevator pitch then for somebody who's never heard of U.S. Career Institute. What is it then? What could someone hope to, what's a course? What's an agenda there, a career pathway someone could follow educationally and learn there?
Very good. So U.S. Career Institute is the operating name of Western Distance Learning, one of the original distance learning educators in the country. We're an accredited school from Fort Collins, Colorado. And so our accreditation goes across the United States, and we're accredited by the DEAC, but we have different things that help us cross the state borders like NC SARA. And so what we're known for is healthcare. Okay. And so it's the early stage healthcare. It's where people start. And so we have a variety of things. We also offer associates of applied science degrees. We even have a high school that goes across the United States. And so depending on where somebody wants to start, but what we're really known for, what really should be impactful for the MGMA folks is that you can have people that are starting in your organization at a relatively entry level and help them grow and develop these people in exchange for a length of tenure. And what we've seen is, especially medical assistant, I joke around, I think I said this to you a week ago. Yeah. If we were like a one-hit wonder, if we were Rockwell, we would be known for medical assistant from Maine to Hawaii. Mm-hmm. In fact, as we're talking, one of our partners in Hawaii, it's like, oh, wait, we got somebody else we have to enroll right now for our latest cohort. We got one more that was just like a late add-on. Can you help us out? And so what's interesting is when you're building this talent and getting the retention that you would expect, the correct people will choose to stay. You're cultivating somebody either that has a modicum of experience and a lot of interest, or a lot of interest and little experience. Mm-hmm. And we've seen the gamut. We have seen oil riggers that are big burly guys, 6'4", say to us, no, I know I'm supposed to be in healthcare. Even though I make a lot of money, I don't want to do this. I am supposed to be in healthcare. And a healthcare organization gave him a shot. They love him, right? And now I think he's going to PA school, actually, years later. Yeah. We have people that were hairstylists that in COVID could no longer cut hair and didn't know how they were going to feed their kids. And urgent care in Massachusetts said, you would be pretty good at our front desk. And indeed she was. And you would be a pretty good MA. Now, I believe she runs 3 urgent cares, right? And so it's really, I'd like to say it's a testament to us, but it's really a testament to our partners. And that's how we approach this, right? We are educators. Unlike traditional educators, our partners' interests and methodology is taken into account to help develop their talent, right? What their organization needs, how their organization goes about it. We're providing the content that gets somebody through a national certification check, right?
Mm-hmm.
But how they treat the employees and how they develop that person on day zero makes all the difference in the world.
Okay. Now, it may differ course load to course load, but is the learning that they're taking in, is it more theoretical, like I'm understanding concepts, or are they actually learning like they could walk back into the practice later that afternoon and they've actually learned a tool that they could apply to the practice that day and do it? How does that balance out? Where is y'all's focus there?
So it's really up to our partners.
Okay.
And we run the gamut.
Okay.
We have, I would tell you the most effective versions sound something like the didactic learning that we're doing is relatively concurrent with the clinical skills that the partner is teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have partners that have taken a medical assistant course and made it a very short form, an 8-week crash course. And 3 of the days they're learning on our didactic sequence, right? But they've shuffled our sequence so that they can come and learn the clinical skills associated to their job. And in a medical assistant role, it's very utility, right? So a medical assistant in a pediatric office will do something quite different than a medical assistant in a cardio cath lab.
Right.
So they learn the core lesson out of sequence to what the organization wants. And then they send that person to meet with a clinical instructor 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be, at least in my mind, the most effective and gets the fastest, longest term results, if that makes sense. They're literally building a person from scratch.
Yeah, it does, because it seems like, you'll hear people say, well, I'm a visual learner. People learn in different ways, but if you're learning the practical tools that you actually apply, it seems like that would, for many people, would be more easily retained. The retention would be stronger there rather than, again, nothing against theoretical concepts. Those can be important in strategic type thinking, but sometimes they're more difficult to apply at your job day one, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. Right. It's more immersive is the word that I would use, right? So they're learning these concepts and they're hearing the language, the medical terminology and the anatomy in real time from doctors and nurse practitioners and PAs, and they're talking back and forth and their light bulbs are going off. Oh, I just learned that, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I hear it all the time.
Right.
We just learned that and I just heard this whole thing happen, right? And it cements it for the student.
Okay. When did you know that medical assistants were your groove, so to speak? How did you know? Did you identify them? Did the market identify it for you? What happened there?
So actually, it's funny that we're talking about that. We do more than medical assistants,
Of
right?
course,
So there's a few things that we specialize in. Initially, it's market oriented. Truly what happens is that clinics, ambulatory clinics, urgent cares, outpatient clinics, they have this need and it's hard to address. And there's just not enough folks coming out. For a while, prior to meeting that one person from the South Dakota, it was pharmacy techs that were having this challenge. And then it switched. And so we see a combination of we see sterile processing technicians, surgical technicians, medical assistants, but the medical assistants far and wide across the country are the ones that draw the most attention and have the strongest need, irrespective of organization size. We are as apt to see a small provider with a practice or 2 offices as we are a giant organization. And so we have them all pretty much equally, but they have the same need. How they go about training them, entirely different.
Okay. So let's think about in real terms. Let's paint a picture for our audience. They may be going, I'm interested in this. I want to send some of my team there. What does it look like? Do you, if you're a student, are you signing into a Zoom room? Where is the learning taking place, and how big is the classroom, so to speak, this virtual classroom?
So you are an army of one, and you're going to
Okay.
log in
Okay.
to an online portal that has our content already pre-made in there.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, U.S. Career Institute, being almost 45 years old, has content writers that, I mean, I can say this without hesitation because our results paint it out. They're brilliant. And what they've created is a very lightweight, user-friendly way to read, gather video, but retain didactic knowledge using real brain mechanics known as cognitive load theory. How much can a brain absorb?
Okay.
Well, like an average brain can absorb X in amount of time. And so it's broken into chunks, and it has a variety of learning mechanisms. Some folks learn by reading. I was raised in the 70s and 80s, so I am a copious note taker because we had a facilitator.
Right.
If that works for you, you can elect a voice. I want to hear a British female's voice dictate to me, and I'll write down all the key words. And if I write it down, I remember it. Some people have a blend of that. Some people need a video feed. And so we have all these mechanisms built into the learning system to help people absorb this model. And then there's this component that people find shocking because, again, raised in the 70s and 80s,
right,
our learning is entirely open book. So when you go to take a quiz, we actually want you to look up the answer.
Okay.
And in real brain mechanic terms, you can do this with any question in the world. I've said this to you a week ago. You can ask any question. How far is my front door to the dead center of the sun? And your brain will either tell you, I know for certain it's X amount of miles away.
Right.
Absolutely. No, it'll try to convince you that you're right. It's right. Or better yet, your brain will go, uh-oh, I better look that one up. Right. And so when you have your quiz open in our learning management system, we're hoping that your brain goes, uh-oh, better look that one up. Our quizzes aren't timed, right? You can take days. We want you to acquire the knowledge. And it isn't until the course is done and you're getting ready to prep for the clinical medical exam, the national exam, that we ask you to close the book to see how much knowledge you've retained.
Okay.
And so it's all meant to inspire and keep you moving forward. And here's the magic part about it. Everybody's different, right? And so the designers and the curriculum writers have really taken into account a wide variety of approaches and ways folks work. Does that kind of long answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that really helped. I have a couple of questions then about that. I want to follow up first with the open book policy. I'm assuming here that y'all did research to see that this is a valid way to do it. This is actually helpful in retention. Tell us about this, because this is a unique concept for me. A novel concept. I had not heard that before. I wish I had gone to your institute when I was in K through 12 and had an open book the whole time instead of having to memorize all these tables. So help us understand, what did you find in your research that says having this open book initially is incredibly beneficial here?
So with quite literally thousands and thousands of students every year, the curricula team evaluates what is working and what is not working. And they are always adjusting things. And so it helps to think of us as an organization that as you come through, we have data on everything. From when you log in to how long it takes to go through a step. And so when they are planning and writing this concept, right, and developing this, they started with cognitive load theory. How much can somebody retain within a certain period?
Okay.
And there's a formula for this.
Okay.
And then there's a scientific concept known as the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, which in simplest terms means how long does it take for my brain to forget something when it leaks out my ears, right? And so what they've discovered was through repetitions that are built in and open book, they're lengthening the time that it takes to forget something. They're lengthening the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, and they're shortening the time to learn it. And here's the secret: rhythm, right?
Rhythm.
And so I'm going to give a tip to the people that are listening. We have probably as many organizations that are large that train people in 8 or 10 weeks and then have them sit for the exam and they're done in 12 or 14 weeks as we do somebody that takes 6 months or a year. The efficacy rates are exactly the same.
Okay.
They pass at the exact same rate. It's the rhythm that you're giving these people to come through. And so that rhythm comes into play from when they're learning on our system to when they're preparing for the exam to when they sit for the exam. What is interesting is, and we have this from time to time, when folks fall out of rhythm, right? And so when do they forget? So here's your long
Right.
answer,
Yeah.
right? How long does it take somebody to forget? About 3 weeks.
Okay.
About 3 weeks before you start really forgetting meaningful content, right? And so we're watching for that. And there's times as the partner of these organizations where we have to say, nope, you got to go back. You got to go back. Sorry, right? And naturally we'll get some pushback. Oh, I was out sick for 2 weeks. I get it. You got to go back. Yeah, we can actually see you have to go back, right?
Yeah. You've brought up a couple of times you're a kid of the 70s and 80s. So with you talking about rhythm and the way people learn, it reminded me of an episode of our era of Happy Days. There was an episode where Potsy, one of Richie's friends, was having trouble memorizing things. And so they had that band that they played in. And so Potsy learned if he sang it, he could memorize things. I just wanted to throw that out there. If y'all learned, you were talking rhythm, I'm thinking singing and memorizing things through song. Is there any merit to that, or was Happy Days and Gary Marshall just way out there by doing that?
No, mnemonics are a known brain mechanic way to get you to memorize things. And in fact, wife the psychologist, right? I get a lot of these manuals. Singing things and putting things to a rhyme might be the single best way if you're an audible learner.
Okay.
If you learn by hearing, if you learn by speaking and hearing, right? It might be the single best way to do it. There's a reason why religious organizations, churches, and such have a choir, so you can remember things, right? It's time tested.
Wow, that is so cool. I love learning things from you and from 70s sitcoms too. So.
Yeah, no, I remember Happy Days quite well. I will never be as cool as the Fonz.
Hey. So you brought up something earlier that I think would be very important to our listeners here. And I want to make sure I understand this before we sign off. In some cases, you're partnering with the practice to help develop the curriculum. I want to make sure I understood that. What role is the organization playing in helping either design or show you what their people need to learn? I just want to help have that explained again so we absolutely are clued in on what's happening there.
Absolutely. So when an organization partners with us, before we launch, we ask them to take a look at our content.
Okay.
We're not actually adding content or changing content.
Okay.
We have a huge library that we can add on. But when you're talking about medical assistant, all the content that is there is designed to help somebody sit for the CCMA, the Certified Clinical Medical Assistant exam, and pass it on the first try. The order that they take it in, except for medical terminology, is unlocked. And so we want the organization to tell us, when you train people, what can you do when you're training people with the clinical skills to move them in faster or better? Some organizations say, no problem, just use your own sequence. But a lot of organizations actually take our content, and there's 27 lessons in there. And they say, instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they say, let's go 1, 7, 3, 15, 24, Pause. Then we're going to bring them in for a clinical thing. Can you help us do a checklist for the clinical skills that they should have learned in that sequence? And the answer is yes. We don't charge more for that. You're a partner, right?
Right.
And then we'll bring them back, and then they'll go 22, 8, 9, right? And so it's really unique to that organization. And what we have found is the organizations that choose to do that, and even from cohort to cohort or even student to student, they get the results that they're looking for, right? They have sequenced in somebody that by the time they get through the exam, this person is actually ready for their job almost in full, right?
Wow.
And here's the amazing part about this, even in a short window, like a 12-week or 14-week thing, not only are they training them for this role, but the folks that they're going to be working with, these utility players, are getting to know them, right? And they're giving feedback back to the HR team or the training team. We have a few organizations that bring people in off the street and give them a 30-day wait period, and then they bring them into our program. And providers have a say in this. And so very much a partnership, very much a left hand and a right hand doing this. I can say this. I don't think two organizations do it the same way.
Before we sign off, Rob, I want to give you an opportunity. Do you have any upcoming events that might be free to the public, or resources, or anything you might want to point our listeners to who would want to know more about U.S. Career Institute or building that CMA pipeline?
You know what? We are part of the MGMA CMA program.
Yeah.
And so on the MGMA site, you can go right there and click on Certified Medical Assistant and learn about it and reach us right through there. And really what I will say is, when you contact us through the MGMA, hey, have a vision, make a plan, right? We adapt around you. You don't have to adapt around us. We'll do our best to assist.
Yeah.
Right. And when I think about this, the MGMA, if I may, you have such a wide variety of organizations and providers. It really, when they reach out to us, this is definitely not our content is the same, but how we go about it is really about that member.
Okay.
Right. And that level of success. So when people reach us through the MGMA, right?
Yeah.
Think big.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Absolutely.
all I can say.
Yeah. Rob Fershtman, it has been a blast getting to meet you again and learn more about you and your organization today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So
we look forward to continuing the dialogue with y'all.
Absolutely. So everybody, what I'm going to do is in the episode show notes, I'm going to put a direct link to what Rob was referencing, that you'll be able to find that on the MGMA website. I'll also put it in an upcoming article that we're going to create based on this conversation here. So I just wanted to say thanks again to Rob and to U.S. Career Institute for partnering with MGMA. I think this partnership, it is so needed. I think all of you, hopefully you're nodding your heads at home or wherever you are about your CMA programs and needing that pipeline there more now than ever. So I did want to give you that link to their organization. It's U.S. Career Institute, all one word, uscareerinstitute.edu. And so for now, I just want to say thank you all for being MGMA podcast listeners.